Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at, well, the hidden heroes behind all the tech we use, the tools, the processes, the stuff that makes it all work. And we're diving into semiconductor manufacturing. Super precise, super high stakes. We're talking vacuum integrity. Sounds simple, maybe, but even the tiniest gas leak. Huge problems. Yeah, so for this deep dive, we've really dug into a specialized article all about helium leak detectors and vacuum integrity in chip making. It's a great shortcut to understanding why this matters so much. Our mission today: unpack why vacuum is non-negotiable, look at the clever tools they use, and show you why this little detail is, like, fundamental to all modern tech.
It's really amazing when you think about it, how critical nothing empty space can be. In chip manufacturing, a vacuum isn't just empty. It's this carefully controlled environment,
Yeah.
and any little thing that disrupts it, that's a direct threat. A threat to the chips, to our devices, to, well, our whole digital world, really.
Okay, let's unpack that. You said precise environments. Why are they so essential? What actually goes wrong if they aren't, perfect? What are the real stakes?
Well, it boils down to physics and chemistry, but on a tiny scale. You got processes like etching, deposition, ion implantation. These need incredibly specific gas conditions. Pressure, composition, everything. Think about it. Just one stray molecule, something you don't want in there, gets into the chamber. You can totally mess up the silicon wafer, ruin the chip, or at least make it perform badly. So to stop that, these machines run under different vacuum levels. Different jobs need different levels of emptiness, you could say. You start with rough vacuum. That's maybe 1,000 down to 1 millibar, used for pumping things down initially, load locks, that sort of thing. Then there's medium vacuum, maybe 1 down to 10 millibar, often for transfer chambers, moving wafers around. Then you get serious, high vacuum. That's 10 bound to 10 millibar. This is where the really critical stuff happens, like deposition and etching. And the top tier, ultra high vacuum, or UHV, we're talking less than 10 millibar. That's for super sensitive things like ion implantation, electron beams. Keeping these specific levels, it's just vital, stops contamination, keeps the process consistent. And that directly hits chip quality and, crucially, the yield, how many good chips you get from each wafer.
Wow. It really paints a picture of just how precise this all is. So, okay, if you need this absolute purity, how on earth did you find a leak when you're dealing with vacuums that extreme? It's not like you feel a breeze, right?
Exactly. No breezes in UHV. That's where the hero comes in. The helium leak detector. It's this really clever instrument. Basically, it's a type of mass spectrometer, but it's tuned just for helium atoms. And the source material makes it clear why helium is perfect for this. One, it's inert. Totally safe, won't react with anything, big plus in a factory. Two, there's hardly any helium just floating around in the air naturally. So if the detector sees helium, you know it's coming from your test, it's signaling a leak. And maybe the most important point, helium atoms are tiny, really small, so they can squeeze through leaks that are incredibly small, leaks other gases might just pass by.
And the sensitivity is just mind-blowing. It says here, the detector can spot leaks as small as 10 onilubral dollars. 10 to the minus 12. Trying to put that into perspective for you, that's like, I don't know, finding one specific grain of sand on a massive beach.
But for gas molecules, it's incredible.
It really is astonishingly sensitive, which leads to the practical question, right? How does this gadget actually find these microscopic leaks?
Right, and that's where it gets really interesting. The article breaks down two main ways they do it, sort of two core strategies for sniffing out trouble depending on how you introduce the helium and where you detect it.
Exactly. The first one is called vacuum mode. You might hear it called inside-out testing. So with this, the chamber or part you're testing is under vacuum, connected to the leak detector. Then on the outside, you carefully spray helium gas around potential leak spots, flanges, seals, welds, you name it. If there's a leak, the helium gets sucked in through the hole, into the vacuum system, and straight to the detector. Ping, you found it. And the manufacturers, they've got really advanced detectors for this. Things like the Inficon UL1000 fab or the labeled Phoenix Quadro. Super sensitive, like down to 5.10 operand bimerals, fast bump down, clever ways to ignore background noise. They make it efficient.
Okay, so that's helium going in. What's the other way?
The other main approach is sniffer mode, or outside-in testing. This time you do the opposite. You fill the component you want to test with helium, usually under slight pressure. Then you take a probe, the sniffer, which is connected to the detector, and you move it around the outside of the component near seams, joints, etc. If helium is leaking out of the component, the sniffer probe picks it up. These are often portable units, good for checking components or specific areas. Models like the Agilent HLD PRS-02 or the Inficon Ecotech E3000 are examples. Some are multi-gas, super quick response times designed for, high throughput testing on a production line, touch screens, user-friendly stuff.
So vacuum mode for testing a whole chamber from the outside, sniffer mode for finding leaks out of a pressurized part. Makes sense.
And there's also a variation called integral mode. That's more for, say, checking the overall leak tightness of a big system. You basically put the whole thing in a bag or chamber, fill the system inside with helium, and measure how much helium accumulates in the outer bag over time. It gives you a total leak rate.
Okay, so you've got a tool for pretty much every situation, depending on what part of the semiconductor process you're looking at or what kind of leak you suspect. There's a way to track it down. And these detectors aren't just for like one specific machine, are they? They seem to pop up all over the place in a semiconductor fab.
Oh, absolutely. They are critical across the board. In the main etch and deposition chambers, essential. Got to keep those high or ultra-high vacuum levels pristine. Then you have load locks and transfer chambers, moving wafers between steps. Leaks there mean contamination gets carried along. So you check O-rings, gaskets, welds, constantly, also hugely important for gas panels and welded lines. You check these before you even let the reactive process gases in. Imagine a leak letting air into your pure process gas supply. Disaster. Costly disaster. And you've got routine checks too. Things like cryopumps and turbo pumps, the engines of the vacuum system, need to make sure they're running reliably long term. And finally, OEM acceptance testing. Before a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment even leaves the factory to go to the chip maker, it gets a final thorough vacuum certification using these detectors. It's a stamp of approval.
It really sounds like it's less about fixing problems after they happen and much more about preventing them from ever starting. Which, like you said, in an industry where one bad chip can be incredibly expensive, that's everything. So we know the why and the what. Could you walk us through the actual how? Like, what does a technician actually do when they perform a leak check, say, using that vacuum mode?
Sure. Yeah, let's make it practical. The article lays it out pretty clearly. So first step, pump down. You get the chamber, the tool, down to its normal operating vacuum level. Then you connect the leak detector, hook it up to the system, usually at an exhaust line or a specific test port designed for this. Next, really important, you let things stabilize. Give the detector a moment to settle down and measure the baseline background level of helium, which is usually tiny, but not zero. Okay, now the active part. You spray helium around potential leak sites on the outside. You use a fine nozzle, a sniffer probe, in reverse almost, directing a small stream of helium at flanges, welds, viewports, seals, feed-throughs, anywhere there might be a path in. While you're doing that, you observe the reading on the leak detector. If you spray helium over a leak, you'll see the reading spike up pretty quickly. Once you find a signal, you quantify the leak. Is it a big leak or a tiny one? Does it exceed the allowed limit? For these systems, the spec is usually really tight, maybe below 10 mbar. And the last step, document and fix. Record where the leak was, how big it was, then repair it, maybe tighten a flange, replace an O-ring, and then, crucially, you retest to make sure the fix worked. And there are best practices, of course. Don't just blast helium everywhere. You'll saturate the area and get false readings. Be methodical. Log everything. Traceability is key for quality control.
That detailed process, it really connects the dots. It shows how this meticulous work ensures the whole system is not just fixed, but verifiably leak-tight and reliable. So wrapping this up, it's crystal clear how vital these helium leak detectors are. They're the unsung guardians of that critical vacuum integrity in semiconductor manufacturing.
By keeping these systems free of even the tiniest leaks, they ensure those ultra-clean environments needed for making high-quality, high-yield chips that, well, run everything these days.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just maintenance. Proactive leak detection, it's really a foundation, a cornerstone for quality, for reliability, for just running these incredibly complex fabs efficiently. It's operational excellence in action. Maybe something to leave you with. Think about it. Our world runs on these tiny, complex chips. And the ability to make them relies on something as seemingly basic as finding microscopic leaks. How fundamental is that seemingly mundane task of leak detection to pushing technology forward? Makes you think about all the invisible but absolutely essential things that underpin innovation, doesn't it?